Good morning, Time. I hope you had a good weekend, and if you thought that I blew your mind last week with a sheet of paper with some scribbles on it, imagine what I'm going to do with a blank sheet of paper, because this week we're going to be asking some Enlightenment philosophers for some relationship help. So, to segue out of your video, we're going to start with John Locke and his tabula rasa. We're going to take this sheet of paper, which currently represents the beginning of our life, and make it just represent every single beginning that we have to go through in our lives. You see, oftentimes in life, our beginnings begin on a sheet of paper, and they end on the same sheet of paper, and we know exactly how big an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper is. And with those sorts of beginnings, the scariest part of the whole experience is whether or not the people who are reading what you're writing on the page are going to like what you write on the page. Where beginnings get really tough is when you just have to reach into life and hope that you get a big sheet of paper. And sometimes when you reach in, you'll get a big sheet of paper and it'll be nice, and sometimes your sheet of paper will be much smaller. And that's when it's really scary. This is a fear that I'm sure everyone has felt, that penetrating fear, like you don't know what's going to happen next. And that fear comes from the fact that we know that someone could just cut our sheet of paper so simply and end it all right there. Which is what Thomas Hobbes was talking about when he was talking about diffidence. As Thomas Hobbes writes, "From this equality of ability ariseth equality of hope in the attaining of our ends. And therefore, if any two men desire the same thing, which nevertheless they cannot both enjoy, they become enemies." Or to put it into simpler, more modern day terms, when we hand someone a beginning, our immediate feeling is fear, that they're just going to end it right there. But the question is, how do we overcome it? How do we move on beyond being scared that they're just going to rip our sheet of paper at the very beginning? And rather than turning to, say, like the ancient Greeks for help on courage, we're going to go to yet another Enlightenment philosopher, Kant, who says, "Laziness and cowardice are the reasons why so great a portion of mankind, after nature has long since discharged them from external direction, nevertheless remains under lifelong tutelage, and why it is so easy for others to set themselves up as their guardians." And essentially Kant's call is, don't be afraid to use your own reason. Don't be afraid that when you hand someone a sheet of paper, they're going to openly reject you. Because if you want it, if you want a long sheet of paper from a person, you're going to have to hand them a sheet of paper. And that is the whole problem of the Enlightenment. The whole time, that's all they were trying to figure out. How do you overcome that fear of handing someone a sheet of paper that will affect your relationship with them and not being afraid to do it? And if you don't believe me, I give you Exhibit A, a sheet of paper which a group of men handed over to another man, which had to do with them disbanding their relationship with him, which they weren't afraid to say. And Time, I understand that it may sound like I'm sounding crazy right now. Just think about it. Use your reason and, you'll have the courage to do it. But that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that if we use our reason, if we think about things, then we'll have a one-up on our fear. As Caesar du Versailles said, "Other men are carried away by their passions, their actions not being preceded by reflection. These are the men who walk in darkness." On the other hand, the philosopher, the enlightened man, even in his passions, acts only after reflection. He walks in the dark, but by a torch. These men all still come to one conclusion. You can never know what's going to happen. You can only have a little bit of a better glimpse. A torch in the dark, per se. Time, that is the end of my video for you today, and as you move forward in your relationship with this boy who you are having a new beginning with, I can give you only 4 pieces of advice. 1, keep calm. 2, think and reason like they did. 3, use your words. And 4, DFTBA. Time, I'll see you on Friday.